It is an afternoon edition as we move into the weekend, getting ready for the big July 4th festivities, celebrating our nation's independence, 250 years in the making. The great American experiment moves forward, and so do we. We're going to start with our White House rundown. Good afternoon. I'm Gary Franchi, Next News Network Chief White House Correspondent, delivering the latest White House news from the past 24 hours here with our streaming partner, Trump Daily Post. Today's rundown starts with a clear White House priority. Trump's working families tax cuts continue delivering nationwide, while the administration builds towards America 250 celebrations and a major July 4th address with a full holiday message of economic relief, enforcement, and national pride. The White House spent the day pushing the continued rollout of the working families tax cut with state-by-state success stories reaching families, workers, and manufacturers across Wisconsin, Minnesota, Idaho, California, Virginia, Maryland, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. The administration paired the economic message with the America 250 programming in preparations for President Trump's July 4th speech on the National Mall. While online activity stayed focused on tax relief, enforcement wins, protection of national monuments, border security, energy, and patriotic events. The White House message heading into the holiday weekend is direct. Historic tax cuts are reaching working families. America 250 is building towards a golden July 4th, and the administration is framing this moment as part of what President Trump has called the golden age of America. The White House said President Trump marked the one-year anniversary of the working families tax cut by highlighting hard numbers for American workers and families. And according to the White House, nearly 70% of those who received a tax cut earned less than $100,000. The average refund of the tax season rose 11% to more than $3,400. And American families and workers claimed $82 billion in direct tax relief. The White House also said that 97% of filers received a tax cut, with deductions topping $3,100, and that's for overtime, $7,500 for Social Security, and $7,000 for tips. While 1.4 million filers claimed Made in America car loan deductions, it's a results-centered message from the administration at the start of the Independence Day weekend. And according to the daily guidance and the pool schedule for July 3rd through July 5th weekend, President Trump's schedule includes White House meetings and a signing session on Friday before traveling to Keystone, South Dakota, where he's set to deliver remarks at Mount Rushmore on Friday night tonight. And on Saturday, the president returns to Washington for the Salute to America celebration on the National Mall, where he's scheduled to speak at 9:45 p.m. Eastern as America 250 events continue. Sunday's schedule shows executive time at the White House with no public events listed. So taken together, the past 24 hours show a White House pressing three themes with confidence and discipline: tax relief for working Americans, visible presidential leadership ahead of the July 4th celebrations, and a strong patriotic push around America 250. That's the latest from the White House today. Now let's turn from the West Wing to the rest of the day's top stories. Welcome to the broadcast. We've got some news we're going to be covering. You guys heard of these flock cameras? Yeah, very controversial. People are taking matters into their own hands right now, so we've got some news on that. We're also going to be discussing, of course, the latest out of Iran and the big funeral that took place. Also, Gavin Newsom, oh yeah, turns out one of his aides has been wearing a wire. So bad news for Gavin Newsom as as everything starts to close in around him. Also, we got the latest on the communists in New York, as well as what the FBI just caught. We have details on the America 250 celebrations, and something happened with AOC, and so we're going to get into that as well. So, welcome to the broadcast. We're going to get started right now, talking about these flock cameras, very, very controversial technology that people are taking matters into their own hands. More than 100 flock cameras in Cleveland were supposed to go dark after City Council voted June 17th to end the contract and let it expire June 29th. Well, they stayed live anyway. Police kept using them anyway. And that one detail blows the whole scam apart. Flock Safety sold America a crime tool. Cleveland exposed a tracking grid that ignores consent, ignores oversight, and stays switched on after the public says no. Now Americans across the country are not just complaining about it, they're cutting poles, bagging lenses, blinding cameras, and ripping the surveillance state's eyes out of the sky. So ask yourself one question. If the target was only stolen cars, why did the cameras stay on after the contract died? Now this matters because Flock, the compliant city governments, and data-hungry bureaucrats built physical surveillance infrastructure over American roads and then lied about the purpose. In Cleveland, officials got hard numbers. Police could point to only 3 cases that actually led to convictions. 3. So after that embarrassment, the Safety Committee voted June 17th to end the deal, and the contract expired on June 29th, yet more than 100 cameras remained operational until at least July 15th. City consent meant nothing. Public oversight meant nothing, and the machine just kept humming along, and the machine already got uglier. Public records exposed that federal agencies conducted thousands of searches through local camera networks. Documented abuse cases hit at least 18, with police officers using Flock to stalk girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, wives, and romantic interests. Now the next step pushes beyond license plates to Bluetooth identifiers from phones, smartwatches, earbuds, and devices inside vehicles. Every commute, every church stop, every doctor visit, Flock and the local government is feeding it. And not hunting criminals first. They're cataloging citizens. So Cleveland kept more than 100 cameras running after the contract died. So when I hear about control versus recovery, I pay attention. You see, I saw Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson talk light-based therapies after serious health struggles and dramatic turnarounds, and Gibson said this stuff works. Then Jonathan Otto introduced me to red light therapy, and it hit home. My wife had constant discomfort and anxiety. She started using it at home and it got real. And now the results: restful sleep, improved recovery, and better energy. The NASA-backed research grabbed me too. These FDA-cleared devices use red and near-infrared wavelengths for deeper penetration, cellular-level support to support circulation and reduce inflammation. They even offer PEMF mats, full-body coverage, and infrared heat as an alternative to paid sessions. Go to myredlight.com, use NNN25 for individual items or NNN30 for bundles. Keep control in your hands. Now here's the detail they hoped you would never connect. One investigator on video showed a Flock-style unit triggering on human motion with no cars passing at all. Not a plate, a person on foot. So when the salesmen say, relax, it only reads vehicles, they're running the same con that the ruling class always runs. Narrow language up front, giant power grab on the back end. And now I'm going to show you what people are saying, because the public sees the trap now and they're not in the mood to get scanned into submission. Americans are declaring war on Flock cameras and people are tearing them down. Something big is happening all over the country. People aren't just complaining about the cameras, they're taking action. Reports are emerging of Flock cameras being cut down, damaged, disabled, and targeted in multiple cities. Why? Because what started as a tool to track stolen vehicles has turned into something bigger. The breaking point came when public records revealed that federal agencies had conducted thousands of searches through local camera networks. For many people, that confirmed their worst fears, but now the story's getting darker. People are learning the next generation of surveillance won't stop at license plates. They're already being discussed. Bluetooth identifiers, smartwatches, earbuds, and other devices. Meanwhile, cities across the country are beginning to reconsider their contracts. Let's check in.
It's over for Flock. People are now tearing these cameras down in large numbers, and they're using all kinds of wild methods.
A viral report has emerged online claiming that Flock security cameras are being targeted with laser pointers, raising concerns about damage to surveillance equipment in multiple locations.
In a crime alert tonight, the Springfield Police Department is working to identify the suspects who cut down 3 flock camera poles recently. Now, those cameras located near 42nd and Jasper were damaged and left on the ground.
And it's happening because we now have proof that these cameras have turned into a mass surveillance network.
It was a short run for flock safety cameras in the city of Woodburn. In 2025, a total of 23 cameras were installed across the city to help police track down suspect vehicles. City Council in November suspended the use of the cameras while the police department conducted a full review. That report confirmed what many people were afraid of, that federal agencies had accessed the system, showing nearly 6,100 searches on the city's camera network between January and November 2025.
And it's going to get worse when cameras have the tools to record your digital footprint as well. That's unacceptable.
If you thought flock was bad, something even more terrifying is being installed all over America. It's made by a defense contractor called Leonardo, and here's what it does. So the biggest problem with these LPRs, license plate readers like Flock, is that it needs to use a license plate to identify you, at least right now, and they can't tell who else is in your car. So what's their genius fucking solution to this? Well, they've made a device that can be installed next to any existing license plate reader, that once it's installed, that next time they pull your license plate, it will pull all the unique Bluetooth identifiers from all the smart devices in your car.
The most recent Supreme Court ruling rejected the idea that law enforcement can obtain location data through a geofence search without Fourth Amendment limits. Critics argue these cameras are creating a similar kind of location tracking by recording where vehicles travel in real time. And that's why cities like Cleveland are suddenly rethinking their contracts with Flock. Local officials are starting to face a simple reality. Either the cameras come down or people will take them down themselves.
You drove by just a few days ago, you may have noticed Flock cameras standing here off of Reliance Road, but now they've been cut down completely at their base. Many first noticing the cameras laying on the ground and across the sidewalk just yesterday.
So you saw the backlash at Cleveland and cities around the country as these camera networks keep expanding. Now the resistance gets more direct with footage of anti-surveillance cameras being tagged, damaged, and taken apart. People all around the world are starting to revolt and destroy the surveillance cameras being installed in their towns. Plantair, Flock, and other AI security companies are actively building the ultimate AI surveillance grid. So you can see this footage here. Please do not cut. The Flock cameras coming down all over, getting sprayed, painted, cables destroyed, complete destruction of these cameras. People taking matters into their own hands here. They do not want to be surveilled or part of this surveillance grid. So the people across the world are rising up, as you can see, against these cameras. So that's the revolt spreading from outrage to action. Next, more video. Flock cameras getting hit across the country as Americans push back. Mariana Fall. Across the U.S., people are actively destroying these Flock cameras. License plate readers widely used by police for surveillance and crime detection. Wow. There you see all those cameras getting destroyed. Wow. People are serious about destroying these cameras. So it's not isolated anymore, it's a pattern. Next. The next clip shows the mockery turning tactical with a viral takedown of the excuses Flock defenders keep feeding the public.
Leave Flock cameras alone. There's no need to label all the Flock cameras in your area. And don't put plastic bags over them either, because all that does is cost the company time and money. Grow up. I know that you can use a $50 high-powered blue or green laser like this one to permanently blind Flock cameras, but come on guys, why? Definitely do not use the camera map on dflock.org to find cameras, approach them from behind on foot, with a spray paint extender and spray them. And if you do that, at least make sure that you have your phone in your pocket so we can identify you using the Bluetooth and 5G. There is no reason to spend $20 on a hard hat and high visibility vest and then buy a $30 Sawzall with diamond tip blades to cut down the entire pole. That's because the cameras and solar panels are clamped with a simple 8mm socket, so you're just doing too much. The cameras have about 12 hours of backup batteries, so they will be transmitting Bluetooth and 5G that we can use to track you. So under no circumstances should you put the camera inside of a Faraday bag while the battery runs itself out and then break them down for parts, because that would prevent us from finding you, and nobody wants that. If you do any of these things, it's important that you do not buy a pair of Vader facial recognition blocking glasses, because then it would be impossible for us to identify you and charge you with a class 4 misdemeanor, which is typically just community service or a small fine. And for the love of God, do not attend your city council meetings and demand that they cancel your city's flock contract. We need these cameras. Peter Thiel is a benevolent overlord, and we should all be grateful that he loves us enough to keep us safe. Grow up.
So the sarcasm lands because people are tired of being treated like suspects by default. But in Cleveland, the bigger scandal may be this: the contract was supposed to end, the cameras stayed live anyway. In this particular city, all their flock cameras were supposed to be taken down by the end of June, according to a decision by the city council. But for some reason, they decided to keep them up and keep paying the utility costs to keep them activated, even though they allegedly didn't have the money to keep them up. Could it be because they're selling the data on the flock cameras and are making a profit? What people aren't connecting is how GM just got sued in California over selling personal data.
These flock cameras were set to go dark at the end of June after City Council voted to shut them down. Bizarrely, they remained on. Police are still using them. On June 17th, the City Council Safety Committee voted to end the contract. They said they had very little that they were used for. Only 3 cases the police could point to that led to convictions. They weren't really useful at all. And so the city council let the contract expire on June 29th, but then people noticed the cameras were still up because Flock volunteered to keep them running for a while. Check this out. Let's play this real quick.
And discussion. It's ridiculous. Flock contract ended. But if you thought the cameras went dark, they didn't. They're not off.
Correct. They're still operational, at minimum until July 15th, when City Council is set to meet again to discuss how they want to proceed.
So what does that mean?
Essentially, they're operable. We're still able to use them should we need them to keep the public safe.
Last Friday, Cleveland City Council President Blaine Griffin sent this memo to Safety Committee Chair Mike Polensek.
So that nobody wants them. The public doesn't want them. The city council don't want them. The police doesn't need them. Yet this company wants to keep them on. We'll pay for it. You don't need to pay us anything. We'll just let you have them on for free. So what is the opportunity cost for this private corporation to basically negate all the money, keep them on at their own expense? There must be something they're getting out of it. What are they getting out of it? Well, they're making money some other way, aren't they? Is it through license plates? Is it through something else? Are they selling the data? Is this private company taking up all this data through these cameras and then selling it for a profit? What are they using it for? Right?
So the question City Hall doesn't want to answer: why keep them running after the public said no? Next, local reporting confirms Cleveland police were able to use the cameras even after the contract expired.
Flock contract ended. But if you thought the cameras went dark, they didn't. They're not off.
Correct. They're still operational, at minimum until July 15th, when City Council is set to meet again to discuss how they want to proceed.
So what does that mean?
Essentially, they're operable. We're still able to use them should we need them to keep the public safe.
Last Friday, Cleveland City Council President Blaine Griffin.
So the most damning line in this whole story, it came out of Cleveland without anybody even trying to hide it. The contract ended, the cameras stayed operational. Police were able to use them, and that's the confession. Flock Safety built the hardware. Cleveland officials kept the hardware live. Bureaucrats treated public consent like a speed bump, and the abuse rolled on. And if you still think the panic's overblown, remember the Virginia case. A former Air Force engineer got arrested after tearing down more than a dozen cameras and told police the system was unconstitutional and a violation of my and others' Fourth Amendment rights. Police then used the same surveillance grid to track him down. That's not irony. That's the regime showing you exactly what it built and exactly who it built it for. So President Trump came back to Washington to dismantle the old regime's open border chaos, DEI poison, and lawfare cartel. Good. Now every Republican, sheriff, mayor, council member, and state legislator needs to bring that same energy to the domestic surveillance racket. Ban these systems, rip up the contracts, audit every federal search, name every city that kept cameras live after residents voted no. And if a police department wants to argue for flock, make them answer in public for the 18 documented stalking cases and for Cleveland's dead contract that kept spying anyway. Americans do not exist to be logged by flock safety, farmed by federal agencies, and brushed aside by cowardly local officials. The country's awake now, and you can see it in the backlash, in the videos, in the rage, and in the polls hitting the ground. So send this to your city council, your sheriff, your state rep, and force them to pick a side before this grid hardens into permanent control. And we're also bypassing the traditional notification grid right here at Next News because we set up a system to keep you informed. And that is controlled by texting raw feed to 844-840-4963. Text that number, and I'll send you a text message every night to keep you in the loop. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already joined. Now, I also want you to celebrate with the Next News Network by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Well, people are not willing to take flock in their town, and people are cutting them down. That's remarkable to see. We're going to keep an eye on that. It was brought to my attention, these flock cameras, a couple months back. My own son is even brought to my attention. He showed me the website where you can find out where the flock cameras are. We were driving around one day, and he was telling me, oh, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. Pretty wild. Okay, we're moving into the latest out of Iran, and let's get into that now. Here's the detail that blows up the whole media lie. On July 1st and July 2nd, real tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz split in plain sight. Normal ships chose the U.S.-protected Omani route, while Iran-linked and sanctioned traffic brushed up in the Iranian lane. That's not Iranian control, that's Iranian isolation. Then President Trump dropped the hammer. Not one ship got through his wall of steel. Iran is drowning in 300% inflation, and if Tehran wants relief, America will feed them with our corn, wheat, and soybeans. That's not a standoff, that's a checkmate. And the funeral footage out of Tehran makes it even worse for the regime. See, this matters for one reason above all, your wallet. The Iranian terror regime spent years blackmailing the world with the Strait of Hormuz, and the global media machine kept selling that script as if Tehran still held the energy market by the throat. Donald Trump wrecked that lie. Hormuz stayed open, oil panic cratered. The July 1st and 2nd tanker tables show the truth in black and white. Finland prosperity, Togo prosperity, Spain B, Germany B, Bahamas prosperity, ordinary traffic moved through the Omani line under U.S. protection, while sanctioned names like Serena, Sinopa, Dahlia, Humanity, and Trend piled into the Iranian lane. That split tells you exactly who controls the water. America does. And that means fewer price shocks here at home, stronger deterrence abroad, and zero reward for a regime that still launches drones, threats, and propaganda. Trump did not bribe Tehran. He broke Tehran's leverage, then turned collapse into American advantage. And Trump just proved what happens when clarity crushes blackmail. And if your family is on Medicare, you need that same clarity now. The Medicare confusion industrial complex floods seniors with noise so they stay trapped. Chapter is simple by design. One call, one advisor. They look at your doctors, your prescriptions, your whole situation, and tell you the truth with no propaganda, just facts. They work for you, not big insurance. And that's how you stop getting played by a rigged maze. If you're already on the right plan, they'll say it. If not, they can help you switch. It's free, and it takes under 20 minutes. Last year, people who found new plans with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. Call the number you see on your screen, 910-728-4109. Don't let bureaucratic chaos push your family around either. Now, one more before we get into the tweets, because this says everything. While Iran barked about approved shipping routes and a forceful response, Tehran also staged a farewell ceremony for Ali Khamenei, with black banners crying officials and Dmitry Medvedev flying in from Moscow to salute a dead anti-American order. So ask yourself, if this regime still ran the table, why does it look like a wake? I'm going to pull up the tweets because you're going to see the humiliation too. Here's President Trump talking about Iran. They've got 300% inflation.
I did a blockade that was essentially not a blockade. It was a wall of steel. We have the great Navy, the greatest Navy in the world. These guys are unbelievable. Not one ship got through to Iran. They have 300% inflation. They're making no money. So we're going to take some of the money and we're going to buy them. They need food. They need corn and wheat and soybeans. And we're going to have exclusively our American farmers provide that, assuming we get to the position where we should get to. I think we're going to get there. Their strength is gone. Their bravado is gone, although they keep up a pretty good front. The one thing they do have is fake news. The New York Times said the other day that Iran is in better position now than it was 4 months ago. I said, wait a minute. Their military is gone. Their inflation is up to 300% from 5%. Their leaders are gone. Their second row of leaders are gone. Some of their third row of leaders are gone. Their generals are mostly wiped out. But they said that they are in better shape today than they were 4 months ago before we attacked. No, we were very strong.
So Trump just laid it out. Iran's economy is broken. Military hammered. The media still try to sell the lie that Tehran's stronger. Next, a closer look at Iran's new Strait of Hormuz threats as Trump keeps diplomacy on the table. Iran is issuing new warnings over the Strait of Hormuz while Trump is still pushing diplomacy. The contrast tells you everything in this moment. Tehran wants the world nervous, shipping markets shaken, Gulf nations intimidated, and America pressured into treating threats like negotiation. Trump is doing the opposite.
They're totally defeated militarily. They have some missiles left. We could wipe them out too. And I hit them 3 times last week very hard because they sent a drone into a ship. I hit them. And we're negotiating, and we'll see whether or not. I think they've agreed to just about everything we need.
However, the Islamic Republic issuing a warning to oil tankers moving through the Strait of Hormuz that they must use approved routes or face a, quote, forceful response. Fox News contributor and former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman joins me now. Dan, good morning to you. So these negotiations right now, of course, aren't just about Iran's nuclear program. They're also over the Strait of Hormuz. And yesterday, Iran doubled down on their demand to control the routes that ships take through the strait. Here's the quote from Iran's military command. They say any failure to comply, deviation from the designated routes, or disregard for the navigation protocols of the Islamic Republic of Iran in the Strait of Hormuz will be met with an immediate and forceful response from the armed forces, endangering the security of the violating vessels. So is the situation now that ships are forced to either choose between Iranian demands or brave waters that are overseen by the United States? Because that does not feel like the free flow of commerce here.
Yeah, it's not quite the free flow of commerce. Iran doesn't want to close the strait entirely because they need it open to export their oil. We've lifted the blockade, and so they are selling their oil at market prices, and that revenue is important to their regime, especially, obviously, the IRGC, which I believe will try to use that money to rearm and reconstitute their ballistic missiles and their drones. But at the same time, Iran wants to project power and they want to enforce some control over their own self-designated sphere of influence. They want to make it clear to the Gulf states and the United States that they can control the Strait of Hormuz going forward, that they will have a role to play in how it's managed.
Yeah, that's right. And President Trump said that he wants to give diplomacy a try, but there is, of course, a limit to everything. And these statements that Iran are making about the strait are obviously pushing it. So what would a military operation actually look like for the United States to regain control or gain control of the Strait of Hormuz if it comes to that?
So first, I think it's important to emphasize we're in kind of an inflection point right now. I don't expect anything to happen between now, July 4th and July 9th, during the funeral for Ayatollah Khamenei. After that, the question is whether we head to negotiations, in real good faith negotiations, which we have not begun yet. There were indirect discussions in Doha, but nothing substantive about Iran's nuclear program. And of course, we've got to be concerned about their ballistic missile program and their support to proxy terrorists, everything.
So while Iran talks tough about controlling shipping lanes, the reality in the water tells a different story. The next chart shows a split, plain as day, Iran-linked traffic hugging the Iranian lane, while most other tankers stick to the U.S.-protected Omani route. Take a look at this. You can see the two different shipping lanes. Interesting. So the traffic map blows up Tehran's bluff. Commercial ships trust American protection, not Iranian threats. Now Mike Waltz at the UN shuts down the regime's propaganda with photos and one blunt message. This isn't Tehran. Iran will not silence us on our own soil. They may work in Tehran, but not in the UN Security Council. We will tell the truth.
Fortunately, the representative of the regime started his remarks today by saying, apparently, this council should not meet, should not speak. Let me remind you where you are. This is not Tehran. This is the United States of America. This is the United Nations Security Council. You will not silence this body. The representative goes on to say that the ambassador from Bahrain, the foreign minister, myself, and other members of this body are full of lies, that we're lying. Let me ask you, what here is a lie? Who's lying here? Is this Arab family in Bahrain in a residential neighborhood whose home was destroyed by an Iranian Shahed drone? Are they lying? Crown Plaza Hotel full of tourists? Are they lying? First responders whose headquarters were struck deliberately so that they couldn't put out fires? Are they lying? Is this hypocrisy? Is this what this council is here to denounce today? I asked the representative, are these lies? Are these photographs? Are these lies? I'd say not.
So after calling out Iran's lies to their face, Waltz raises the pressure, makes the choice clear. In the next clip, he says the world, Iran's neighbors, and even Iran's own people are not with the regime.
There's an old scripture that says, quote, I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Iran cannot keep choosing death and curse. And today, we once again urge Iran to revert to the path of peace and dialogue. The world is not with Iran. Iran's own people are not with this regime. Its neighbors are not with this regime.
So Waltz drawing the moral line piece is still on the table, but the regime keeps choosing death and chaos. Next, he delivers the warning they can't ignore. Trump is offering an opportunity, but his patience is not unlimited.
I cannot stress enough the possibility of real, transformative, positive opportunity for the nation and people of Iran is on the table. But President Trump's patience is not unlimited. The world cannot continue to suffer, and Iran must abide by its obligations to this council that this council voted for without opposition, and the world must hold this regime to account. I think.
So the message from the U.S. is simple. There's still a path, but the clock is ticking. Meanwhile, in Tehran, the regime is putting on a funeral spectacle for Khamenei as Russia and China send their people to pay tribute. A farewell ceremony for former Iranian supreme leader begun in Tehran with memorial events planned in several cities ahead of his burial. Delegations from Russia, China, including Dmitry Medvedev, are expected to attend.
Ya Hussein! اصلا نمیشه باورم که دیگه نیستی بینمون قصه یکی دوتا که نیست تو رو گرفتن ازمون تو رو گرفتن تو رو گرفتن ازمون سخت تحمل غمت وقت خدا حافظیه
So the state funeral is supposed to project strength, but the images coming out of Tehran tell a different story. Next, a top Iranian figure, including President Pezeshkian and Major General Rezaei, are seen in tears.
ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء.
Yeah, it looks like they just found out, but the tears are the picture of a regime on edge, not a regime in command. Next, the Kremlin makes its move, shows Dmitry Medvedev arriving in Iran for the farewell ceremony. So the peak humiliation sits right there in Trump's own words. Not one ship got through, not one. For years, the Iranian regime built its mythology around Hormuz, squeezed the world, spike oil, terrify markets, force concessions. Donald Trump shattered that racket with a wall of steel and then spelled out the aftermath with brutal precision. 300% inflation, shattered leadership, generals gone, second row gone, third row hit. And while the New York Times tries to sell another fairy tale about Iranian strength, the regime hauled out funeral theatrics in Tehran with Masoud Pezeshkian and Mohsen Rezaei in tears and Dmitry Medvedev flying in to honor the old order. That's not power, that is collapse wearing stage makeup. So here's the line that matters tonight. Let Tehran, Medvedev's, the Chinese delegation, the UN deadweights, or the legacy press launder the regime back into respectability. The receipts are already on the table. The Omani lane carried the real traffic because the United States Navy secured it. The Iranian lane filled up with Iran-linked and sanctioned vessels because blackmail collapsed into self-containment. Trump offered peace from dominance, not surrender, and he even mapped the win all the way back to American soil. Our farmers, our corn, our wheat, our soybeans. That is America First foreign policy with teeth. So keep the pressure on. Demand inspections that stick. Demand no soft deal cooked up by weak-kneed bureaucrats. If you're sick of the propaganda, send this segment to one person who still thinks Tehran held the cards. They need to see the tanker chart, the 300% inflation line, and the tears in Tehran. That trio ends the argument. But we're not going to end the argument here. We're going to continue sending you the news, but you have to make sure that you text the words raw feed to 844-840-4963. We're bypassing the algorithm, sending the notifications direct to you when they don't arrive. Yes, right to your phone, one text message a night. And celebrate the wins with the Next News Network by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. So that's the latest from Tehran. Now we're going to move to California and get the details on Gavin Newsom. And apparently somebody in his administration very close to him was wearing a wire. Oh, but it didn't happen during the Trump administration. No, it didn't. It began during the Biden administration. So we're going to get into the details on that. An FBI source wore a wire inside Gavin Newsom's own orbit as far back as June of 2024. Let that sink in. Federal agents did not just sniff around Sacramento to gossip. They flipped longtime Democrat insider Alexis Podesta, mic'd her up, and sent her into conversations tied to Newsom's then chief of staff, Dana Williamson, who pleaded guilty in May to fraud, a false tax return, and lying to the FBI. And Gavin still went on camera whining that Donald Trump was coming after him. No, Gavin, this was not a mean tweets problem. This is what happens when your corruption firewall blows apart from the inside. And the detail that should terrify every California insider who started talking first. The story matters because Gavin Newsom's not just a slick-haired governor with presidential delusions. Gavin Newsom is a polished mascot for the entire Democrat machine. Activist sermons out front, insider grift in the back room. The anchor detail tells the whole story. Alexis Podesta wore an FBI wire in June of 2024 while Dana Williamson sat near the center of Newsom's operation. Williamson later pled guilty after a scheme that siphoned roughly $225,000 from Xavier Becerra's dormant campaign account through disguised consulting fees and no-show jobs. That's not a paperwork glitch. That's machine politics with a cash register attached. Then look at the scope. Court-authorized wiretaps in May and June of 2024. Snagged calls and texts far beyond one aide. And Sacramento lobbyists and political insiders got FBI letters telling them agents intercepted their communications. Paul Morrow drove the dagger in. Putting a human source up against a sitting governor is a huge deal. Investigators have a lot already. Exactly. Newsom's victim routine just cratered. The former Biden administration era timeline alone blows up the media fairy tale that Trump invented this case out of thin air. When Sacramento cartel can hide $225,000 behind no-show fees, ask yourself a harder question. How much of your own wealth exists only as digits that can vanish with one breach? Everybody cheers AI in the cloud until your bank freezes, code locks you out, and your money doesn't live on a server you control. Noble Gold Investments gives you something real, physical gold and silver, a coin you can hold, a bar you can stack, something that can't be frozen by a keystroke and can't be erased by code. You could even move it into a tax-advantaged retirement account or get it shipped right to your door. Go to nextnewsgold.com, just mention my name, and get a free 10-ounce U.S. independent silver bar when you open a new qualified account. America needs assets the cartel can't hide. Now here's the piece that Gavin Newsom can't spin away with another mascara-smeared victim video. Dozens of Sacramento insiders got those FBI notification letters last fall because agents had intercepted their calls and texts, even people with little or no connection to Dana Williamson. That means his probe did not nick one disposable aide and stop. It cut through the Sacramento swamp wide enough to rattle lobbyists, donors, and machine operatives who thought the club would protect them forever. I'm going to show you the reactions because the panic tells its own story. The FBI mic'd up a mole inside Newsom's political orbit before the DOJ launched a corruption investigation. That's according to the New York Post. No wonder Gavin is livid.
From California, just about an hour ago now. No comment to Fox from the DOJ as of this hour. A source there saying that there are several investigations into people around Newsom, including his wife and his former chief of staff, and they originate from whistleblowers. Fox News asking for clarity out of Newsom's office around what he means when he says the DOJ is demanding records. That has not been defined. We'll update you as soon as we get more word on that. In the meantime, the vice president
Democrat insider Alexis Podesta secretly recorded conversations during the criminal probe into Newsom's then chief of staff, Dana Williamson. So the first report raises the big question, how long have the feds been inside Newsom's circle? Now we get the answer. The wire operation started under Biden in June of 24. Newsom's former chief of staff has been wearing a wire on behalf of the FBI for years. He's cooked. Before people claim, Trump, the wire wearing started under the Biden administration in June of 24. FBI infiltrated Gavin Newsom's inner circle by convincing governor's ally to wear a wire. The revelation she was wearing a wire as far back as June of 2024 explains why a swath of Sacramento insiders and lobbyists were stunned to receive FBI letters last fall. So it wasn't some last-minute move. It had been running for years. Now more on Alexis Podesta and how her recordings pulled Sacramento insiders and lobbyists into the probe. Longtime Dem insider Alexis Podesta secretly wearing a wire as far back as June of 24. During the probe into Dana Williamson, Podesta recorded conversations explaining why dozens of insiders got FBI letters. Newsom and his wife are now under a broader federal investigation. New York Post. So this is Alexis Podesta. So that's where it gets ugly for the California machine. The dragnet kept expanding. Then Newsom went public, claiming Trump and the DOJ were out to get him and his wife.
Recent days, federal agents have knocked on the doors of family, friends, and former employees. Not because they found a crime, because they're simply trying to find one. They're demanding records. They're abusing the grand jury process, digging through years and years of random documents. Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president. Because he hates that I've consistently called him out over and over again for his lies and deceit. Donald Trump is simply the most corrupt president in American history. He's turned the levers of government into his own personal power ministries to reward cronies.
Okay, Gavin. So there's Newsom playing victim, calling it political retaliation. Now watch him try a familiar dodge, changing the subject to California crime numbers and attacking Fox News coverage. Gavin Newsom trying to change the conversation amidst the New York Post headlines. This is what he posted.
All of us have a role and responsibility to socialize not just what's happening in California, but across the nation and point out the fact that states like Texas have significantly higher homicide rates than California, property crime rates that are higher than the state of California. I was just looking at the numbers that came out today from the FBI in Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee. Tennessee has 24% higher rates of homicides in the state of California. Why?
Blah, 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 blah. Trying to change the subject. So deflect from the corruption heap by touting stats and blaming the media, but even the next clip he goes further, calling Trump dangerous and in decline.
This guy's still winding up. And we saw the Supreme Court today. Some decisions were kind of mixed, particularly on the vote by mail, which, earlier this week that was critical in terms of protecting and preserving our republic and our democracy. But again, vigilance doesn't even begin to describe what our posture needs to be over the course of the next few months, because as you suggest, across the spectrum, this guy is failing and increasingly flailing. And it's self-evident that decline from a physical and an emotional and sort of cognitive perspective, but the power that he continues to wield is real. And we have to, again, I think, be absolutely mindful that the worst is yet to come, that this is just the beginning.
Oh, it is just the beginning, Gavin. So while the probe closes in, Newsom's still firing off anti-Trump talking points. Next, DOJ's Todd Blanche throws cold water on Newsom's claims, says they aren't grounded in fact.
Attorney General Blanche, a few weeks ago, Governor Gavin Newsom said that he was under an investigation by the DOJ. He called this political targeting. What can you share, at least respond to what his comments were on that matter?
I mean, the only thing I'll say about what he chose to do and what he chose to say is I'm not sure his words are in any way grounded in fact. He'd have to address that. But to the extent there's investigations that are ongoing, I will not talk about them, and neither will anybody behind me or in this department. He can choose to say whatever he thinks helps him. It doesn't make it true. All right, thank you, guys.
So the response matters because it undercuts Newsom's whole persecution story. Next, the New York Post lays out who Alex Podesta is, the Newsom appointee, the center of the story. Newsom is cooked. FBI infiltrated Newsom's inner circle by turning a top Democrat ally into a secret mole. She wore a wire for the feds during the corruption probe. The net is widening. She orchestrated Dana Williamson, orchestrated a scheme to siphon $225 from a dormant campaign account, disguising the money as legitimate while serving as Newsom's chief of staff, shared confidential state government information with Podesta regarding the state's litigation against Activision Blizzard. Williamson pleaded guilty in 2026 to conspiracy. Her sentencing is pending. The June 24 wiretap, part of the broader investigation, captured Williamson discussing confidential matters with Podesta. Podesta inherited oversight of Becerra's dormant campaign account after Williamson became Newsom's chief of staff in 2022. She received monthly payments, mostly $10,000, but her attorney says she did not know they were improper. The original Williamson probe expanded into wider public corruption investigation, now scrutinizing Governor Gavin Newsom, his wife Jennifer Seibel Newsom, including her nonprofits, finances, and taxes, and members of the inner circle. The FBI conducted court-authorized wiretaps May through June of 24 and sent notification letters. Williamson declined to cooperate with the expanded probe into Newsom, telling agents he had no information. The governor's office declined to comment on the personal matter. New York Post. So now you know the name, the bigger corruption scheme. Now we go through Dana Williamson, the Becerra campaign. George Santos says, I want to join public service again. I want to be the warden of the facility Gavin Newsom and Eric Swalwell end up in. Paul Morrow, to get approval to put a human source up against the sitting governor is a big deal. The predicate's no joke. They had to have a lot already, and I'm even surprised by this, and I thought I was beyond that. And MJ Truth Ultra, remember a few weeks ago, Newsom released a video in tears stating he and his wife were being investigated. Well, it just got worse. Longtime Democrat insider wore an FBI wire while cooperating with the feds. The investigation has expanded into Newsom's himself and his wife. The walls are closing in. So that's the point. The kind of FBI move that doesn't happen on a whim. Next, we have this from the Department of Justice. In a letter this week addressed to the President of the International Criminal Court, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche wrote the Department of Justice rejects any assertion of jurisdiction by the ICC. So, the peak here is not Gavin Newsom crying into a camera about Donald Trump. The peak is colder than that. Federal investigators were deep enough inside Gavin Newsom's orbit to wire up Alexis Podesta, while Dana Williamson moved towards a guilty plea tied to fraud, a false tax return, and lies to the FBI. Gavin Newsom kept selling himself as the future of the Democrat Party, while one of the people closest to his machine sat under federal scrutiny and money from Xavier Becerra's dormant account got siphoned through disguised payments. The contrast destroys him. Gavin Newsom did not stumble into bad optics. Gavin Newsom built a Sacramento culture where insider access, political protection, and public power mixed into a greasy cartel. And then the cleanup crew lost control and the tape started rolling. So here is the line that everyone should hold. Do not fall for the martyr script Gavin Newsom and the regime media are already trying to write. He ranted that Trump was coming after him. He sneered that Trump was declining. Fine. Then release the records, Gavin. Explain the June 24 wire. Explain the intercepted call letters. Explain Dana Williamson. Explain $225,000 pipeline out of Xavier Becerra's dormant campaign account. Explain why Jennifer Seibel Newsom's nonprofit finance and taxes now sit under the same widening cloud. Demand names, demand documents, demand charges where the facts lead. Todd Blanche and the Trump administration are defending American sovereignty abroad and restoring accountability at home. That terrifies blue state royalty. That's great. So share this with every Californian who got sold the Gavin myth. Then drop your take below. Is this the end of Newsom's 2028 fantasy or just the beginning of the takedown? I want to make sure you stay in the loop on this news. Make sure you join the thousands and thousands of patriots who've already texted the words raw feed to that number on the screen, 844-840-4963. And then make sure you're celebrating the wins with us at the Next News Network by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Okay. Gavin Newsom, man. What a way to kick off the weekend with that headline. Oh, by the way, we had someone in your orbit wearing a wire. Oh, man, I can only imagine what those conversations are. It's only a matter of time before they really expose everything surrounding Gavin Newsom. You know, he walks around with his arrogance. He thinks he's untouchable. I mean, it just drips off of him. And that's the kind of arrogance and pride that he holds before the fall. All right, let's go into the latest on the socialism, the FBI, New York. A sign in a New York terminal just said the quiet part out loud. This escalator has been turned off to assist in energy conservation. Elevators remain fully operational. That's not a parody. That's the Port of Authority in New York and New Jersey lecturing Americans inside a transit hub in the richest country on earth. Use the elevator, comrade. Do your part. Accept less. And while regular people get the third world treatment, CNN's Abby Phillip and her studio crowd refused to sit in 78-degree solidarity with the scarcity cult they kept selling. Ben Ferguson blowing the scam up live, and this is bigger than an escalator. It's the Democrat Party ripping off the mask. See, the fight hits your house before it hits any think tank paper. Your thermostat, your electric bill, your air conditioning, your right to live in comfort without Zoran Mamdani-style busybodies and blue state bureaucrats barking orders about how much convenience you deserve. The Port Authority sign matters because it captures the Democrat program in one humiliating sentence. Shut something down, call it conservation, and demand gratitude. Then the media cover for it. Abby Phillip tried that game on CNN, and Ben Ferguson snapped back with the line that wrecked the whole performance. It's not 78 degrees here right now. No one's going to buy this. Exactly. They cheer rationing for you and carve out exceptions for themselves. And Caroline Leavitt nailed it. She says this is a full-blown communist revolution. She named the threat. J.B. Pritzker blessed socialist wins as a recipe for winning. Peter Thiel warned Democrat socialists will take over their party. They're not hiding anymore. They're campaigning on scarcity, control, and decline while President Trump drives national revival and abundance into America's 250th year. When Port Authority starts shutting down escalators and calling it virtue, I start looking for things that actually help families feel better at home. I saw Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson talk about light-based therapies after serious health struggles and dramatic turnarounds. Gibson says the stuff works, and then Jonathan Otto introduced me to red light therapy, and it hit home. My wife battled constant discomfort and anxiety, then came real restful sleep, improved recovery, and better energy. The cellular level support matters. NASA-backed research helped drive this field. FDA-cleared devices use red and near-infrared wavelengths for deeper penetration to support circulation and reduce inflammation. At myredlight.com, they even offer PMF mats, full-body coverage, infrared heat, and at-home use as an alternative to paid sessions. Visit myredlight.com, use NNN25 for individual items or NNN30 for bundles. Reject managed decline. Now here's the part the Democrats and their media bodyguards can't laugh off. The same movement selling thermostat sermons and broken escalator obedience also connects to organized street chaos. FBI Co-Deputy Director Christopher Raya just put a federal marker on it. We found funding from nefarious sources. We have subjects identified. that lane changes the temperature very fast because it's not just campus cosplay or a New York mayoral fad. Trump's people are following the money behind violent interstate protest networks. And I'll show you the tweets. But keep the sentence in your head because the subjects have been identified. Escalators in New York are now being turned off to conserve energy. Welcome to the third world. Elevators remain fully operational. So New Yorkers are now staring at dead escalators in the name of energy conservation. Alexis Wilkins boils down the real message. If you hate thermostat orders, you're really gonna hate socialism. Attention, New York liberals. If you don't like getting told what temperature to set your thermostat, you probably won't like socialism. So it's not theoretical. Next, CNN gets caught ducking its own 78-degree talking point when Ben Ferguson calls out Abby Phillip on air. Listen.
Ben, I don't understand this.
Do you support it?
Ask Nikki Haley.
No, but I'm asking you, do you think, when you saw that, you're like, hell yeah, let me walk over there and knock that number up to 78?
Let me ask you a question. Is Nikki the Republic of South Carolina?
Hey, watch out.
Hey, state?
Hey, slow down. It's 78 there a lot. It's 78 there a lot.
What kind of
but do you support
and Ben, don't you live in Texas?
I live in Texas,
okay,
and
so
there's no way in hell we're putting it on 78 degrees.
That's why your grid falls apart.
It's not 78 degrees in here right now either. No one's going to abide by this. It's absurd.
But Ben, I'm just saying, this is a weird hill to die on.
No, because
when
it's
Nikki
not
Haley says,
hold
on, when Nikki Haley says, we ask that you set your thermostat to 68 or lower by doing
68
in the
or 78
in the winter. This is for the winter energy conservation. So in the winter, they're telling people to set. She's telling people to set their thermostat to 68. And also, this doesn't come from the politicians. This is also coming from, as I pointed out, the Department of Energy. It's coming from the power companies. Con Edison, which is running the power in New York.
Let me translate
stay cool and stay cash. Set
for you.
Thermostats no lower than 78 degrees.
This is real simple.
I'm just asking.
We believe in better power grids. We believe in reinvestment in power grids. We believe that you should build enough so that I don't have to walk up and go to 78 degrees.
You can let this one go if you want.
You don't have to. We can turn it up to 78 in here right now, and in solidarity we stand with Mandani.
You don't have to jump off the partisan cliff. You can let it go.
It's not 78 in here.
I agree with Abby on this one. Listen,
just let it go.
I am.
So even CNN won't live by the rules. Their side keeps pushing. Peter Thiel is warning liberals. Democrat socialists aren't on the fringe. Billionaire Thiel stuns liberal crowd, warns Democrat socialists will take over. He says the push is real, not some fever dream. Now the story turns to consequences with the FBI saying it's tracking nefarious money behind violent interstate protests. The FBI tells Fox News Digital it's uncovered nefarious funding sources behind violent interstate protests, identified suspects, and begun building criminal cases with federal prosecutors.
Thing the JMC we brought a lot of financial analysts, not only from the Bureau, but from Department of Treasury as well as IRS. And we're really looking at attacking the money. Who's funding these folks? Because we know somebody is at the end of this funding these folks. The hard part with the funding piece is it goes through a bunch of legitimate hoops first. And so having to track that back, having to jump through those hoops and figure out that is a little bit, that takes time. That's not the most interesting work sometimes, but we're working on that hot and heavy through the JMC. We found funding from nefarious sources. We have subjects identified. Getting those folks to indictment and or a conviction is a little bit different story right now. So we are working hard 24/7 with our major offices that we're seeing a lot of these violent protests erupt at through our JTTFs, through the JMC, to continue to peel back that onion, so to speak, to uncover and bring to our partners at the Department of Justice a prosecutable case. Because like you referenced before, it does go through some very legitimate hoops, and it is commingled with very legitimate money as well. So splitting that out just takes time. And so we know the actors behind it, or we know a portion of the actors behind it, and so we're working every day to bring an indictable case to the Department of Justice. Because we are in the middle of an investigation, I can't speak on that right now. But I'll give you a call when we're getting ready to arrest them. As you remember, as you're probably familiar, the president issued NSPM 7, which was essentially his presidential memorandum that was the government's approach to combating the threat to political violence, which we have seen got has increased very much in the last 15, 16 months. And so that is essentially a whole of government approach as it relates to any threats against government officials, government entities, and or government activities. And so think of the stuff we saw in Delaney Hall in Newark. Think of what we saw the UFC 250, the UFC 250 plot. Some of these other violent protest activities, not First Amendment protected protest activities. It's when those protest activities turn to violence that we've seen all over the country really in the last 15 or 16 months. So that is our response to combat that threat vector. So what we've done is we've established a joint mission center here at headquarters, because that particular threat is what I would call a hybrid threat. You've got pieces of cyber involved with it as it relates to swatting some of these public officials or government officials. Obviously, you've got a criminal element involved in that. You've got a counterterrorism element involved in that. Believe it or not, you even have a counterintelligence element involved in all that. So we brought all those folks together from different divisions at headquarters, and we brought them together to sit in the same space and really be a clearinghouse for these types of events that happen.
So while the FBI follows the cash behind the chaos, the bigger point's the same. Voters keep seeing control always comes first. Spencer Pratt lays it out bluntly. Socialism starts with promises and ends with rationing. Communism always goes the same way. They smile, promise you the world, free this, free that, abundance for all. How? Don't ask. Then they get into power, and the rationing begins. First a smiley ask, then a demand, then a bullet. You use too much energy, comrade. So from the shut-off escalator to the AC at 78, the script's always less freedom for regular people. That raises the next question. Are there still anti-communist laws on the books that fight this poison? Jefferson's violin asked Grok, are there anti-communist laws still on the books, and what are they? Theoretically, could the Trump DOJ use these laws to prosecute self-proclaimed communists and socialists? Well, Grok says yes, there are 2 federal laws with anti-communist roots that remain on the books. The Smith Act criminalizes knowingly advocating, teaching, or organizing for the violent overthrow of the U.S. government, up to 20 years in prison. And the Communist Control Act of 1954 declares the Communist Party an outlawed conspiracy to overthrow the government and subjects members to penalties under related internal security laws. So the law draws the line between radical belief and actual conduct, but at the White House, Caroline Leavitt says today's Democrats aren't flirting with communism, they're becoming it.
What I imagine, I'd be watching videos like that, candidates running for the modern day Democrat Party. This is not your granddaddy's Democrat Party. This is not the Democrat Party of JFK. This is a full-blown communist revolution that is taking over Capitol Hill right here in Washington, D.C., just a few steps away from where we are sitting right now. The inmates are running the asylum. These are crazy people who are advocating against what I call the 3 Ps: prison, police, and private property. They don't want any of those things, and those are the ideals that founded this great country 250 years ago. But as President Trump says, communism is easy to sell. You just promise people free stuff. Until a few years, you're living in squalor with no free home, no free food. You're just sitting there with a whole bunch of communists looking around and saying, what the heck happened?
So she says the inmates are running the asylum. Larry Elder takes the argument in a different direction with a blunt warning about who he says is really using Democrats. Quoting Gunther Eagleman, Democrats think they're using Muslims to usher in socialism. The truth is Muslims are using Democrats to usher in Islam. That's the cultural warning. Then comes the electoral one. Mary Miller spotlights J.B. Pritzker openly calling socialism the Democrats' formula for winning. Billionaire Governor J.B. Pritzker says embracing socialism is the recipe for winning. Socialism has led to some of history's darkest chapters. America chose liberty in 1776. We the people will fight to keep it that way.
Your party is in a bit of a moment right now following some elections here in New York. 3 candidates who identify as Democratic Socialist won their primary campaigns, several of them to oust the more moderate establishment members of Congress in their races. Do you think that's good? Are their victories good for your party?
I think what's good is that there are Democrats who are standing up and fighting, that there are Democrats who are standing up and talking about and doing something about addressing the high cost of things. Affordability is an issue that everybody is feeling all across the country. And any Democrat that is standing up and speaking out about that, coming up with solutions for that, and importantly, doing it in a manner that is focused on fighting what Donald Trump is trying to do to raise prices on people, I think those are the people who are winning. So I'm not suggesting that I had one candidate or another in any of these races. I'm just suggesting that that is the recipe for winning in 2026 and I think beyond.
Wow. So once top Democrats start treating socialism like a campaign slogan, the street muscle gets bolder. Next, Minnesota defendants leaving court with communist fists in the air after pleading not guilty. The 15 radical terrorists from Minnesota left the courthouse making the communist fist gesture. They all pled not guilty. So the climax, it sits right there between a dead escalator and a live federal probe. The Port Authority tells Americans to climb down to inconvenience for energy conservation, while Christopher Raya tells the country the machine behind violent protest politics has nefarious sources and identified subjects. Put the pieces together. Zoran Mandami sells the morality play. Abby Phillip protects it. J.B. Pritzker blesses it. Radical street networks enforce it. That's why Caroline Leavitt's line landed so hard. This is a full-blown communist revolution. Not because every Democrat carries a red book, because the whole apparatus pushes the same end state. Less freedom, less property, less comfort, more control. The mask did not slip. The Democrat Party tore it off on purpose. See, Americans do not have to bow to the scarcity cult. President Trump proved the opposite path works. Restore order, unleash production, back police, defend private property, and hunt the moneymen funding chaos. That's where this goes next. Kash Patel's FBI and the Trump administration are not playing the old Biden-era game of watching cities burn and then holding a press conference. They're building cases. And Christopher Reyes said it plainly. We found funding from nefarious sources. We have suspects identified. Good. Indict them. Prosecute them. Name every shell group, every donor pipeline, every tax dodge, every street agitator who thought the country would never fight back. And for every viewer watching that Port Authority sign and wondering whether America has to live like this, the answer is no. So share this with one person who still thinks socialism means cheaper groceries. It means the escalator gets shut off and you get the lecture. So make sure you're in the loop. You're getting the latest news from me. And that's why I set up this telephone number for you, 844-840-4963. Thousands and thousands of patriots have texted the words raw feed, and they're getting notifications direct to their phone from me. And make sure you're celebrating America 250 with us by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Okay, we're moving right along from New York. We're going to go into Washington, D.C., and the latest that will be happening tomorrow. President Trump's massive July 4th spectacle, the largest fireworks display in American history, is going to be something to behold. What are you guys doing for the 4th? Let's get into it. Caesar Rodney rode 80 miles through a raging thunderstorm, sick with asthma and facial cancer, to break a deadlock and secure independence on July 2nd, 1776. That's the detail that Donald Trump put back on center stage while the anti-American crowd spent years trying to teach your kids that the founding was something to sneer at. Now Trump is doing the opposite. He's throwing a national birthday party so big that Washington is bracing for the largest fireworks display in American history. And he's promising a marathon July 4th speech on the Mall. This country built itself on grit like Rodney's, and Trump plans to make America remember it. This matters because nations do not stay strong by accident. They stay strong when the people know who they are, who built the country, and who spent years trying to tear that memory to pieces. Barack Obama's cultural errors, the Biden-era grievance machine, legacy media scolds, and every museum board patriotism hater pushed the same poison for a decade. Apologize for America. Mock the flag. Downgrade the founders. Elevate every foreign grievance banner over the stars and stripes. And Trump just smashed that script. He's not whispering around the 250th. He's flooding the National Mall with power, history, spectacle, and gratitude. Fireworks barges are moving into place. Roads are closing. Washington is bracing for a celebration on a superpower scale. And Trump is tying that pride to real results right now. He said it flat out. Right now, we are in a golden age, he said. We have more factories being built today than ever before, and normal people's 401ks are hitting record levels. That's the stake. A country that honors Caesar Rodney, what Caesar Rodney builds. A country that hates Caesar Rodney collapses. You see, Caesar Rodney rode 80 miles through a storm because freedom demanded clarity, and your family deserves that same clarity on Medicare. The Medicare confusion industrial complex floods seniors with junk so they stay trapped. Chapter cuts through it, and they're simple by design. One call, one advisor, under 20 minutes. They look at your doctors, your prescriptions, your whole situation, and tell you the truth. No propaganda, just facts. They work for you, not big insurance. So if you're already on the right plan, they will say it. If not, they'll help you switch. It's free. Call Chapter at the number on the screen, 910-728-4109. Last year, people who found new plans with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. Clarity matters when bureaucrats want you confused. Do not let bureaucrats rob your wallet while America is roaring back. And here's the part the America haters can't stand. Trump did not just post one heroic horseback ride and call it a day. He tied Rodney's storm ride to a living exhibit in Washington, then stacked that history next to a July 4th celebration so huge even CBS admitted the world has never seen this scale before. 9 launch sites in one section, 8 more beyond it. And while Trump builds the stage, Iran is still posturing like a cornered thug. I'm going to pull up the receipts because the contrast is just too perfect to ignore. Here is what the White House just posted. America's greatest hits, one era at a time since 1776. Been a long time coming. The White House tribute puts 250 years of American greatness front and center. Now Trump is turning history into live July 4th message with a marathon speech and a massive preparation already underway. Trump is teasing a marathon speech. We've seen his speeches before. This is going to be as long as one ever. What's he going to go for 4 hours? I don't know.
We're coming in, we noticed that the barges carrying all the fireworks are being floated into position and dump trucks are being turned to block traffic on the roads to the National Mall where the firework viewing area is, as President Trump teases remarks that he says will be meant as an endurance test.
This week, we look back on 250 years of glorious freedom, and we took so much time and so much effort. And by the way, on July 4th, it's going to be approximately 107 degrees out. And I'm going to go and I'm going to make a really long speech just to show that I can do anything.
He'd like to end the Iran war once and for all. But according to the Wall Street Journal, the Iranians have now rejected a trade where the U.S. would unfreeze billions of dollars of frozen Iranian money if the Iranians just stop threatening to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz and stop claiming they own the Strait of Hormuz, which is an international body of water. The strait is the reason, of course, that gas prices remain high, but they are coming down. Look right now, the current average, $3.82 a gallon. Last week, it was higher at $3.90, and last month, much higher at $4.26. And as Griff Jenkins was just talking about, the president's big event today is going to be taking the new Air Force One out to South Dakota for remarks and fireworks at Mount Rushmore. There is a bill kicking around in the House of Representatives, introduced by some of the president's pals over there, to put his face on Mount Rushmore. But in looking this up this morning, a quick Google showed me that there are both political and geological concerns with that.
So while crews locked down Washington for the 250th, Trump's also pointing viewers back to one patriot who helped make the country possible. His post on Caesar Rodney tells the story of the 80-mile ride that broke the deadlock for independence. 250 years ago, on the eve of America's momentous vote for independence, Caesar Rodney received word that he was urgently needed to break a deadlock among the delegates to the Second Continental Congress. Although he suffered from asthma and facial cancer, Rodney immediately set forth on an 80-mile overnight journey by horseback from Dover, Delaware to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And during a raging thunderstorm, he arrived 250 years ago this very day, July 2nd, 1776, to cast his decisive vote and secure America's glorious destiny of freedom and independence. A equestrian statue honoring Rodney's key contribution now anchors Spirit of 76 at Freedom Park, or Freedom Plaza, a new exhibition in D.C. honoring the heroes and martyrs of the American Revolution. That's a name I haven't heard before. So his ride was about action when the country was on the line, not empty talk. Next, Trump says the same fighting spirit is back, calling this the golden age for American workers and factories. Right now, we're in a golden age, he says.
What's so amazing about this country, in your words, for the last 250 years? You always say like never been seen before. There's never been a country like this that's ever been seen in the history of the world.
Well, a lot of people don't understand that right now we are in a golden age. You understand it very well. You cover it very well. We have more factories being built today than ever before. We have more people working today than at any time ever in the history of our country, and people making more money than they've ever made. I'm not talking about rich people. I'm talking about people that have like normal or normalized jobs, more money than they've ever made before. 401ks are up at levels that they've never seen before, up 80 and 90%. And the stock market's at an all-time high. I think it's 81 days out of a short, a year and a half. 81 days, we have 81 records. So nobody's ever seen anything like it.
So while Trump makes the case the country is building again, the birthday celebration keeps getting bigger. Even France is saluting America, lighting up the Statue of Liberty for the 250th. France gifted America this stunning light show for the Statue of Liberty in honor of our 250th birthday. Ed Krasenstein even posting, "Thank you, France." Cool is that? So the Statue of Liberty display was a reminder America still commands attention from the world. Back here at home, Washington's preparing to cap it off with what could be the biggest fireworks show the country's ever seen.
Tomorrow's festivities here in Washington, D.C. will end what is expected to be the largest fireworks show in American history. The company in charge of bringing it all to life, Pyrotechnico, has been putting on displays for more than a century. Her team of 75 people has spent the last 6 months planning and designing every single detail. CBS News meteorologist Rob Marciano is with Pyrotechnico's president, Rocco Vitale. Rob.
Hey, Vlad, I know this is kind of weird, but this is a thrill of a lifetime. I'm a bit starstruck to meet a pyrotechnic, and you've been doing this your whole life. You told me off camera your first memory as a child was right here during the National Fireworks Display, but things have changed now. Try to put in perspective what's going to happen tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, this show is something that the world has never seen before based on scale. We're here at West Potomac Park looking at a portion of the display where we have 9 locations here, 8 more barges, the entire reflecting pool. So we're excited, and the show is going to be something that's never been seen before.
So it seems to me like this goes from like smaller fireworks, and the canisters get larger as we go back. This one position here, what would that be for a typical town?
Yeah, I mean, we've been looking at this and saying this right here is what you see in a larger community fireworks display that you'll see all over the country.
We've got like 60 of
We have like 60 of them here. Yeah, so the scale's amazing.
I remember as a kid, guy running around with a flare, lighting these off. That's not the way it works anymore, is it?
That is not the way it works anymore.
So it's all computerized, and then these just go off automatically?
Yeah, there's a computer sequence and a computer design put together. The show's controlled by computers, and basically it's automated.
I see you've got fire extinguishers. We're going to have fire trucks. I mean, this is a dangerous business. What are the precautions that you guys take for, something if something bad happens?
Well, it's been a great effort by everybody here, from our staff, the Parks Department, the fire department, a lot of the government agencies, the DOT, ATF, and we're trying to create, and we'll create a monumental show, and it takes all those organizations to come together to do that in a safe way, and that's the most important thing.
Well, for the last question, what's your favorite firework that we can look for tomorrow night?
Wow! So
are they all your babies?
Well, you know what? One of the things I'm most excited about on the show is the product we selected for it. That was super important to us to go out and search the globe and here in the United States and find the best material. The opening of the show is pretty outstanding.
You started with a bang, guys. That's show business.
So it's not just D.C. going all in. In Texas, patriots sent a message from the sky with a bald eagle drone show that left the usual anti-American crowd looking even more ridiculous. Check this out.
This including their America 250 July 4th celebrations. This video is footage from North Richland Hills, which is a suburb of Dallas-Fort Worth, where 2,500 drones filled the sky. Just look at that. The drone show included iconic American images like Uncle Sam and a giant red, white, and blue eagle with pyrotechnics attached to the drones, which gave them some extra flair. I have never seen anything quite like that before that we see on our screen, guys. Those are your headlines.
So Texas brought the modern muscle, but the Patriot instinct goes all the way back to the founding. Peter Navarro next with the story on how Americans tore down King George's statue and turned it into 42,088 musket balls.
In July of 1776, King George III still towered over New York City, not in person, in lead. At Bowling Green, near the tip of Manhattan, stood a gilded 4,000-pound statue of King George on horseback, dressed like a Roman emperor. It had been erected just 6 years earlier as a monument to British power. But by the summer of 1776, Americans no longer saw majesty in this statue. They saw tyranny. On July 9, 1776, George Washington gathered his troops in New York and had the newly adopted Declaration of Independence read aloud. The words had barely settled before soldiers, sailors, and patriots surged down Broadway to Bowling Green and toppled the King George statue. While the crowd saw tyranny toppled, Connecticut patriot Oliver Wolcott saw bullets. 4,000 pounds of lead bullets for a Continental Army Wolcott knew would be desperate for ammunition. So Wolcott had the shattered pieces of King George loaded onto boats and shipped to Connecticut. From there, ox carts hauled the remains of King George more than 60 miles over rough country roads to Wolcott's home in Litchfield. And in the Wolcott family orchard, a shed became a foundry. His wife Laura, his daughter Marianne, and local neighbors worked over melting pots, pouring the king's lead into bullet molds. 42,088 musket balls in all. Some of those bullets were fired 2 years later at the Battle of Monmouth, the brutal New Jersey showdown where Washington's army proved it could stand in the open field against British regulars. You have to love the irony. Britain sent America a monument to empire. America sent it right back at muzzle velocity. So let's celebrate our nation's 250th birthday as we remember patriots like Oliver Wolcott who made it all possible. From the White House, I'm Peter Navarro.
How cool. What a cool story is that? So melting a tyrant statue into ammunition. Next, we close on a powerful piece of American memory. The first time God Bless America was sung. Amen. How beautiful is that? So Peter Navarro handed this story its steel spine. In 1776, patriots looked at King George III in Roman garb and saw 4,000 pounds of lead bullets. The ruling class erected a monument to power. American patriots ripped it down and turned it into ammunition. That's their tradition Donald Trump is reviving, not the fake sanitized version approved by faculty lounges and corporate HR departments. The real thing. Grit, defiance, usefulness, victory. Trump reached back to Caesar Rodney's storm ride while the anti-American establishment kept peddling shame. He reached for founders who suffered, rode, fought, and voted. The left reached for grievance flags and sneering lectures. That fight's over. Trump put the founders back on the field, and the patriot side is winning again. So enjoy every second of this one, folks. Enjoy the barges sliding into place on the Potomac. Enjoy the bald eagle blazing across the Texas sky from 2,500 drones. Enjoy the White House celebrating America's greatest hits since 1776 instead of bowing to the professional America loathers who spent years humiliating this country in its own capital. And when Donald Trump walks onto that mall in the heat and delivers the longest speech he promised, understand what you're looking at. You're watching a president who loves the nation he leads and refuses to treat American history like a crime scene. That alone feels revolutionary after the garbage this country endured before January 20th of 2025. So share this with somebody who's sick of apology politics and drop your favorite founding story in the comments. Let the haters choke on the fireworks. America is 250, and under Trump, it's done bowing its head. And so are we. We're done bowing to YouTube and letting them determine when you get the news. And that's why we set up this telephone number, 844-840-4963. We're bypassing YouTube, going direct to you, sending you a text message every night. All you got to do is text the words raw feed to that number, and you will stay on the inside track of what's happening in this country. And celebrate. It's not too late. Make sure you go to the Next News merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. What a beautiful story that was. And now we're going to go into AOC, exposed apparently, as TPS racket hits the wall. We're going to find out what's going on with AOC and ICE and TPS. And then we're going to start our big Independence Day weekend right here at the Next News Network. I'm looking forward to celebrating with friends and family tomorrow. I hope you are too. So, Brian, let's get this next one loaded up, and we will begin. July 10. That's the date the racket hits a wall. The Trump administration just locked in the expiration of TPS work permits for nationals from Haiti, Syria, Burma, Yemen, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Somalia after the Supreme Court finally smashed the judiciary's sabotage machine. And right as that deadline lands, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez blurts out the line that tells you everything. These migrants are gifts to America. Gifts. Well, a DMV worker in Springfield admits Haitians are getting licenses quick. While Chip Roy says 65% of TPS holders are on welfare. This is not compassion. This is an import and protect pipeline, and Trump just started shutting the valve. The story matters because July 10th is not just a paperwork date. It's a test of whether the law means what the law says in plain English. Temporary protected status contains the word temporary. Democrats, NGOs, legacy media activists, and open border politicians twisted it into forever. They took emergency shelter and mutated it into a backdoor amnesty pipeline that dumps the bill on American workers and taxpayers. Chip Roy hammered the core number. 65% of people here on TPS are on welfare. That means families already crushed by inflation, rent, groceries, and taxes got forced to subsidize Washington's moral vanity project. And Roy nailed the obvious truth. Temporary means temporary. Then look at the human cost inside our own towns. In Springfield, a DMV worker admitted Haitians are getting licenses quick. Quick. That one word carries the whole scam. Fast documents, weak citizenship checks, a state ID that plugs straight into an election system that Trump is fighting to secure. And that's why the Save America Act matters. Border law and vote law are the same fight right now. When a Springfield DMV worker says Haitians get licenses quick, ask yourself how fast the same system can lock you out of your own money overnight. Everybody cheers AI and cloud finance until a screen goes dark or gets hacked. What do you actually own then? Noble Gold Investments gives you something real, physical gold and physical silver. A coin you can hold, a bar you can stack, wealth that doesn't live on a server, can't be frozen by a keystroke, and can't be erased by code. They can even help with a tax advantage retirement account or physical gold and silver shipped to your door. Go to nextnewsgold.com, just mention my name, and you can get a free 10-ounce U.S. Independence silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Own America, not digital vapor. Now here's the detail the corporate press keeps ducking because it wrecks the whole sob story script. USCIS did not just move a deadline. USCIS spelled out the exact countries and told businesses to use July 10 for verification. That means this hits payrolls, hiring desks, and compliance officers in real life. No more activist fog, no more endless extensions by emotional blackmail. Now, I'm going to show you the receipts because Americans see exactly what AOC refuses to see in that word, gifts. Trump administration setting July 10, the expiration for temporary protected status. USCIS confirmed that employment authorization for nationals from Haiti, Syria, Burma, Yemen, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Somalia ends on that date. Businesses must use it for verification. The adjustment follows the June 25th SCOTUS decision limiting court review of TPS termination. So that date makes it official that courts stop blocking Trump and DHS is moving. Now Chip Roy zeroes in on the number the media won't touch. 65% of foreigners came here on temporary protected status are on taxpayer-funded welfare.
Charlie, great to be with you. And, you know, the Babylon Bee summarized this the best today. I don't know if you saw what they put out in saying in controversial 6-3 opinion, Supreme Court rules that the words temporary and forever are not the same. Now, exactly. What is shocking is that 3 Supreme Court justices said somehow that they are the same. And you just highlighted a statistic that's really important, the 2010 date with respect to Haiti and an earthquake. We are now obviously 16 years beyond that. But also the fact that 65% of the people who come here who are on TPS status are on welfare. Yeah. This is the crux of everything, Charlie. This is why the president is correct, why my good friend, and he is a very good friend of mine, Tom Homan, is correct. They are doing the right thing. And all this wailing and gnashing of teeth is a bit much. I think Stephen Miller said it right. Like, look, Haiti, that's good for Haitians, and go, fix your country. When you have earthquake, we're humane. We'll step in and try to help. But it's not a permanent status issue. And by the way, my Republican colleagues, if they want to win this November, they've got to stop playing footsie with Democrats on these things. We had to deal with a discharge petition among Republicans here in the House to try to extend TPS further for Haitians. 10 Republicans sided with Democrats to do that. That's not the way to win in November. I listened to your segment with Byron York. Let's go inspire the people to stand behind the president to stop this flood into our country, and that's the way to win.
So he says temporary was never meant to mean forever. He warns Republicans to stop helping Democrats drag it out. Next, a closer look at Springfield, Ohio, where critics say fast-track licenses for Haitian migrants open the door to election abuse. That's why Democrats are fighting so hard to keep Haitians on temporary protected status. Video of Springfield, Ohio, where illegal Haitian migrants are being given driver's licenses despite getting there and speaking no English.
To see how the Haitians are getting driver's licenses and cars so quickly after moving here despite speaking zero English.
Question for y'all. What are your thoughts on the Haitians? They can't drive? This guy right here, by a Haitian dude. Yo, bonjour.
You got a cat right beside him. Yeah. Stop! Do that! Stop, bro. Stop, do that.
You said that shit, not me. You take that back. I did shit.
I'll tell you that, back. Bro, come on, bro. We be playing, bro. There's nothing wrong with some jokes.
Let's go see what's up. How y'all doing? Question for you. Do you know how the Haitians are getting driver's license? Can they transfer their license from Haiti, or?
No, they cannot transfer.
Do they have to undergo the same test?
I'm not allowed to ask you personal questions outside of the office.
Well, okay. You know what they have to do?
I do not. I really don't know. No, but I know they're getting them quick.
They're getting them quick, right? We ask.
You are not allowed to take pictures in here, sir.
And the go outside. Sorry. Are they able to transfer their licenses from Haiti to here?
No, not without taking the test. But that's the only question.
So we have people literally saying that they are giving the Haitians driver's licenses as quickly as they can and secretively. Well, what can they do with those driver's licenses? Well, in Ohio, you can vote with those driver's licenses. And what else do you need to register to vote in Ohio? Well, it says that you need to be a registered U.S. citizen to vote. But here's the thing. What do you need to prove that you're a U.S. citizen in Ohio? Well, you do not need any documented proof that you are a U.S. citizen. You just go in there and say, I attest I am a citizen. So they can just walk in with their driver's license, say they're a U.S. citizen, no proof is required, and bam, they can vote. It's that simple.
So that's how loose the system looks on the ground. The pressure campaign in Washington makes more sense. Now, 2 Florida Republicans are pushing Trump to redesignate TPS for Venezuelans after a deadly earthquake. Florida Reps Maria Elvira Salazar and Carlos Jimenez are urging the Trump administration to redesignate TPS for Venezuelans.
A major immigration push is coming out of Florida, and it centers on Venezuelans currently living in the United States under temporary protected status, or TPS. I'm Kennedy Owens with what you need to know. 2 Florida Republicans, Reps Maria Elvira Salazar and Carlos Jimenez, are urging the Trump administration to restore or redesignate TPS protections for Venezuelans after a series of devastating earthquakes struck the country. They argue the situation on the ground is too unstable for people to safely return, pointing to widespread destruction and a deepening humanitarian crisis. They say U.S. law allows TPS when a country is hit by disasters like earthquakes, and they believe Venezuela now meets that threshold again. But this comes at a tense moment. The administration has been moving to scale back or end longstanding TPS protections in other cases, arguing that the program is meant to be temporary and that they are not indefinite. So now you've got a split. Florida Republicans pushing for expanded protections while immigration hardliners are trying to rein them in. Here's the question. Should the U.S. extend protected status when a country faces repeated crisis, or is TPS being stretched beyond what it was ever meant to do? And more importantly, who gets to draw that line?
So even after years of abuse, the TPS lobby is still hunting for another extension. Meanwhile, the damage from open border chaos is not abstract. Look what the streets of New York look like now, like a third world country.
I don't care.
So the street scene is what happens when Democrat policy rots the city from inside out. In AOC's response, she says Haitian migrants on TPS are not a burden, but gifts to America.
Comes to the Supreme Court ending TPS for Syrians and Haitians, just talk about the fact that some of these people are being sent to their deaths.
I mean, it's horrifying. We know this for a fact, that TPS is granted in some of the most extreme cases where people are under the most humanitarian threat. And the reason that people go through a very rigorous process in applying for TPS, and just to be approved for TPS and to have that status in the first place is confirmation that it is too dangerous for you to go home. And so to sentence so many people to extremely life-threatening conditions for no reason, because these folks are such gifts to American society. These communities are tremendous assets. In New York City alone, I can tell you how much of an enormous asset that the Syrian community has been, that the Haitian community has been. They are vibrant. They contribute so much to our genius, to our culture, to our economy, to our communities. And it's a loss for the United States. It's a loss for us. And my hope is that we will be able to do everything we can in these very difficult circumstances.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman.
So AOC selling the same open border script, more emotion, no accountability. Now Trump goes the other direction, calling the Save America Act a top priority because it locks in photo ID, proof of citizenship, and limits mass mail ballots.
So I think the Save America Act is the most important thing that we'll have before us, and maybe for many years back and many years forward. It's voter identification with a photo. So you look at somebody, that looks like that guy. Voter ID, it's proof of citizenship, and it's no mail-in ballots, except for the military. We're very generous on this. If you're sick, if you're just not feeling well, you can get exceptions. If there's a disability, there's some problem, or if you go on vacation. But you can't send in millions and millions and millions of ballots where you swamp the place. And it's so corrupt. We're the only country in the world that does it. So it's those three things. I also had no men in women's sports, but we won that yesterday in the Supreme Court. And I also had no transgender mutilization of children. And frankly, we'll win that too.
So Trump just made voter integrity the frontline fight, says it's too important to leave stalled. Next, he gets blunt about the roadblock, the filibuster, and the Republicans, he says, won't get on board.
How do we get there on Save America? What would you like Majority Leader Thune to...
Well, I would like them to get it passed. What I'd really like is for them to kill the filibuster, terminate the filibuster. When they terminate the filibuster, then they'll immediately approve the Save America and 100 other things. You could sit down all day long and just vote, and you'd have it. And the sad part is we probably have 5 or 6 senators that won't vote for it, Republican senators, and all of the Democrats. So their policy's no good, the Democrats. I call them the Democrats because their policies are so bad. But the one thing, unfortunately, they stick together. They don't have...
Well, we'll see.
And Mitch McConnell.
We'll see what this
now Mitch McConnell.
The Democratic Party's got their own issues right now. We'll talk about that a little later.
It's a different kind of issue. When they vote on something, they stick.
Like the board.
Look at the Supreme Court justices. The 3 Supreme Court justices, every vote, if it's for or against, it's 100%. I don't think they had any dissension. Where's our people? Yeah, no. It's almost, I've said it. Republicans want to show everybody how they're not controlled, how they're so honorable. Whereas the Democrat justices, and judges, by the way, and judges, they get up, Barack Hussein Obama appointed me and I'm voting for him. Republicans don't do that. And I'm amazed. I'm not saying it has to be a loyalty test, but it's much different.
So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez handed the game away when she called Haitian TPS holders gifts to America. That one word drips with elite contempt. AOC never asked the cashier paying taxes for the welfare bill. AOC never asked the family in Springfield watching licenses get handed out quick. AOC never asked citizens whether they wanted a temporary program stretched 16 years past a 2010 earthquake and then defended like sacred entitlement. Donald Trump, by contrast, did the adult thing. He restored the meaning of words. He took a Supreme Court win and turned it into enforcement. July 10 is the line, not someday, not after another activist injunction, now. And every Democrat melting down over that deadline is confessing the same thing. They never wanted temporary protection. They wanted permanent transformation. So here's the demand tonight. President Trump, back President Trump, back DHS, back ICE, pass the Save America Act with voter ID, photo verification, proof of citizenship, and an end to the ballot chaos. And Republicans need to stiffen their spines right now. Maria Salazar and Carlos Jimenez need to hear from voters who are sick of carve-outs dressed up as compassion. No more redesignation shell games. No more forever TPS scams. No more filibuster excuses while the Democrat machine fights to lock in imported dependency and diluted citizenship. July 10th gives the country a clean test. Do we obey plain English, or do we let AOC, the NGO class, and the legacy media turn every temporary crisis into permanent demographic leverage? Trump drew the line. The Supreme Court opened the door. Now the enforcement phase begins. If you're done being guilt-tripped, overbilled, and politically shoved aside in your own country, send this segment to somebody who still thinks this was ever about mercy. And make sure you text the words raw feed to that number on the screen, 844-840-4963. We're bypassing the algorithm, sending notifications direct to you when YouTube fails you. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already done it. So what are you waiting for? And make sure you're celebrating all the wins by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. All right, folks, that is a wrap for the night as we head into Independence Day weekend. It's been pretty stormy up here in Illinois. That's where I'm at. And hopefully we'll have a break in the weather tomorrow so we can celebrate. And regardless, we're going to celebrate rain or shine. Doesn't matter, because that's what we do. We power through, right? We're America. We're Americans. We love this country. We love our freedom. We fight for it. I've been doing this channel. I've been fighting for freedom since I made a decision way back in, must have been 2006, I think. May, I believe, was when I started my first website. And it all just grew from there. Radio shows, magazines, documentary films, super PACs, television shows, YouTube channels. Oh yes, we've done it all. By any means necessary, we work to get the word out, to preserve this nation. A republic if you can keep it. That's the charge from Benjamin Franklin. It's one of my favorite quotes from our founding fathers. That is what we must do. We must keep this republic. And that's why I do what I do here on this channel. I am executing that charge by exposing the people trying to rob our nation of its destiny. We, make no mistake, we are definitely in a war against the communist threat. The White House, that's the line now. So make sure, tomorrow you celebrate. Remember what our founders did. Remember what they did at Kings Mountain. My own relatives fought at Kings Mountain. The turning point in the Revolutionary War. It's in my blood, guys. George Washington is actually like my 16th cousin, twice removed, apparently. So I have the blood of the patriots running in my veins. And I'm not going to let it bleed. I'm going to fight every day for you, for this nation. God bless you. God bless America. And celebrate 250 years tomorrow. Remember the patriots who died. God bless you. Good night.